Hey everybody, Derek here to bring another video for Fear the Walking Dead Season 2. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to make videos this past week. I had finals at my school, so I was very busy studying. I am finished though, and I'm hoping to graduate next Sunday from school, so I'm looking forward to that. But I also hope to get back on a more regular schedule of making videos. This past week was very busy, and I apologize I wasn't able to put out videos. However, I did take a look at Fear the Walking Dead tonight, the 6th episode called Sicut Cervus, and I'm going to review it and let you guys know what I thought. If you are not caught up with Fear the Walking Dead and you do not want to be spoiled in any way, then I would exit the video now and come back later, because otherwise you will be spoiled. Okay. So, overall, I thought it was a pretty good episode. I think that it's continuing to show that Fear the Walking Dead is getting better as time goes on, as we get to know these characters as the storyline progresses and we get further into the zombie apocalypse and we see the characters, coming into contact with different kinds of horrors that you're going to see. I think that it's going to get even better, and I think that the drama was very good tonight. I thought the story was great. I loved seeing how the characters have been, feeling about things, how this world has really taken a toll on them. But, the other thing, too, is there were a lot of similar elements, being the concept of keeping walkers because, for whatever your motivations might be. We saw that Celia Abigail, the mother of Thomas and Luis, who owns the ranch in California, Baja, that they were going to, she's keeping walkers, which is something that Herschel did in Season 2. So it was kind of similar, but, I think that the motivation might be somewhat different, but I think that the result's really going to be the same. I think that something's going to go wrong, and it's not going to end up good when those walkers get out. So we'll see what happens, but, ultimately I'm very interested to see what is going to happen next, because there was a lot of cliffhangers at the end of this episode, and I can't wait to see how they're resolved. So, at the beginning of the episode, we had this church, that was meeting. There was a preacher. He was giving a sermon, preaching to his, congregation, and they were all coming up to take mass, taking the bread of Christ. I don't know what those little circle chip things are called. I'm not Catholic. I'm a Christian, but I'm not Catholic, so I don't take mass. But basically those little round chip things that you eat, everybody was taking that. That's the concept of the body of Christ. And they go outside, and Thomas Abigail is out there, and he's trying to tell them things, and all of a sudden everybody starts to bleed from the eyes and start to writhe in pain, and the whole church congregation dies. And we're like, what the heck? Like, what happened? Something obviously happened. And there were a lot of people. I mean, the preacher, there was, men, women, even children that ended up dying because of this. And we come to find out exactly what happened later in the episode. But with our group getting to this part, they are on the water. The Coast Guard is coming to basically take their payment so that they can proceed. But things don't go well. The rest of the group goes and hides in the under part of the yacht. The Coast Guard basically gets a little suspicious, and the group is listening in on this conversation. We don't get to see what happens, but something does not go right, and Luis ends up killing the two people that were on the boat that came on, but Luis gets shot and dies. Now, he's wounded, and Daniel Salazar is going to, stab him in the head or shoot him in the head so he doesn't come back as one of the infected. And Luis says, no, don't do that. Don't get me in the head. Don't do that. Because he's dying, but he's not dead yet. And they're like wondering, what to do. And we come to find out exactly why Luis wants that. Later in the episode as well. Everything makes sense once you get through the whole episode. But Daniel decides not to do that. He decides not to stab him in the head. But Luis does die, and they're able to get through they get to the shore and they end up going to the church. And when they get to the church, they find everybody that was there that had died, that they're now the infected. They're now walkers. And of course, the group gets up and they start to defend themselves. And a couple of things happen during this, this fight, because they do kill several of the infected that are there. You have Daniel Salazar, who begins to have flashbacks of some things that happened in El Salvador while he was, being a torturer, while he was dealing with the revolution that was going on down there. He grabbed a hold of this walker that was a choir boy, a young boy, and basically just flashes back to a moment when he had another young boy with his hand around his throat, and he wasn't able to act, and Ophelia had to save him. Nick had to kill one of the infected that was a little girl. And then one other big thing that happened during this is that Madison ends up getting attacked by one of the infected, and, she's struggling with it, asks Chris for help, and Chris doesn't help her. He just stands there, and somebody else has to go and save her. Earlier on in the episode, when they were on the boat, Travis and Chris were having a conversation about what Chris had done, which, of course, if you remember in the last episode, Chris had shot Reed. He said that he shot Reed because Reed was sick, but we pretty much know that's not what happened. We know that Chris killed Reed in cold blood, and then Reed came back as one of the infected. And of course, I think people know that. Madison clearly, obviously knows that that's what he did. And the group is very concerned about Chris, and I don't blame them. Chris has made a lot of very questionable decisions that really might put people in danger. And, he really took a very terrible turn in this episode and really scared me and probably many other people, just wondering, what is this young man going to do? Because when they get back to the house, they end up, meeting Celia. They find out who she is, that the name of the episode is actually the name on the ranch, I believe, Sicut Cervus. I think that's what the name was. But they end up getting there. They end up going and meeting Celia, and Strand is reunited with Thomas. Unfortunately, Thomas was bit on the arm. I don't know when it happened. It didn't happen on screen as far as I know, but Thomas has been bitten, and that basically means that he is going to die. And when they get there, they find that it's a very nice place. I mean, it's a pretty big property. There's a lot of different, buildings. There's a lot of different people that are helping out there. There's no weapons allowed. Nobody brings their weapons onto the compound because Celia doesn't want the weapons around. And there's a lot of different things that are going on once they get there. One of them being with Chris. Madison is very concerned about what Chris did. Alicia is also very upset seeing what Chris did. Alicia tries to confront him, and Chris kind of threatens her almost. I mean, I wouldn't say directly, but nonetheless, like, the language that he was using was very, very, very uncomfortable. And basically says, Alicia, you can't tell anybody what happened. You can't tell them what I did. So Alicia obviously doesn't trust him. Madison doesn't trust him. And you have Madison telling this to Travis, and Travis asking Madison to help. He reminds her that they're all supposed to be a family together, but he also reminds her about back in season 1 when Nick was having his problem with drugs. Travis was there. Travis ended up helping out quite a bit. He probably had been doing so beforehand as well. And he reminded Madison that he actually went to the church whenever Nick asked him to do that, as we remember from season 1. So he is asking that Madison support him now. He goes back to that point of, you said that we needed to be on the same page. I'm asking you right now to help me. So obviously Travis wants to help his son. I don't blame him. But is he going to be able to get through to him or not? I'm not sure. And the next episode and the next couple of episodes may be pivotal to what is going to happen with his character, because he really may be, treading on villain territory. I mean, I don't know exactly if they're going to be able to help Chris. calm down, figure everything out to get right in the head and, get on a better path for survival, or if they're going to end up having to kill him. I don't know what's going to happen, but that is really going to be a big story, I think, leading up in the next couple of episodes. We also have Nick, who's having some issues as well. We see that Nick is very upset with all of the killing that is going on. He's not really handling this new world as good as maybe he might have hoped, but the killing is really not, very helpful for him. He doesn't really like to do it. And he ends up telling this to Celia. He actually does spend quite a bit of the episode talking with Celia, and Celia kind of treats him very nice. He really admires that. And we know that in many respects, Nick is very fragile. Nick is susceptible to being brought under the control of people. I mean, it's not necessarily that he's, controllable all the way, but one thing you find is that Nick is very vulnerable, and I think that is partly because of his addiction. It is part of just his nature, but he is one of those people. And what ends up happening is in the episode, we come to find out exactly what's going on this ranch. Because again, Nick explains that he just feels really terrible that he has to kill in this world. He doesn't like to do it. And what ends up happening is at one point in the episode, Daniel Salazar sees this boy drop a dog down some shaft. And we're wondering, well, what's going on? Because we hear the dog yelping very, in pain. It seems like something bad's going on. Daniel goes down and he sees this young boy talking to somebody. And Daniel says, hey, what's going on? Who are you talking to? And the boy says, I'm talking to my mother. And we come to find out it's a walker. And there's actually several walkers that are being kept at this farm. And Celia has been doing this. And it turns out that Celia is actually the one who poisoned the people at the church. She did poison the bread that they used for the mass. She was the one that did that. And it seems like the reason she did is, I think, partly because she believes that this is what's next. I don't know whether her intentions are strictly religious, if she thinks that this is, the end of days, if this is just what's going to happen, or if she thinks that people are, evolving what's going on in that respect. But she believes that the walkers are alive, that they're not dead, but that she wants to keep them safe because she notices that, what walkers do is they go and they attack people, they bite them, they eat them, but they don't attack other walkers. You don't see walkers attacking other walkers because they're dead. So in a sense, Celia sees herself almost as like protecting these people by turning them into the infected so that they won't get attacked, but keeping them because she feels like it's her duty. She cares about these people. She loves these people. And in fact, when they tell her that Luis is dead, she's not that upset because he wasn't, stabbed in the head or shot in the head. So he'll find his way back and then she can keep him. And that's just something that she believes. She sees them as alive and she tells this to Nick, and Nick kind of believes that. Which I think is really going to, lend to his guilt as time goes on as well. So we have a kind of a similar thing to Herschel, except Herschel thought that there was a cure coming, whereas Celia kind of thinks, well, this is just what's happening, and this is the way you can survive now, is by being one of the infected, and I can help you. So whether she intends on turning other people into the infected or not, I don't know if she has some kind of a plan. But I think the group might need to watch out. There might be something going on there. So later on in the episode, one of the things that we see is that Thomas Abigail, as we know, was bit, and he is dying. And Strand is there with him throughout everything. And Strand is legitimately upset that his boyfriend is dying. And, you see the real connection that seems to have been formed there. That this isn't just one of those times when Strand was using somebody or manipulating somebody. It really seems like the two of them in their relationship really did love, admire, and care for each other, which is very nice. It's nice to see Strand in that mindset, because we really haven't seen him there yet, but we really saw the emotions come out of Strand in this episode. Now, of course, as Thomas is dying, Strand is very upset that, he's going to lose his boyfriend. He's going to lose the person that he loves and cares about. And at one point, Strand offers to die with Thomas, that he would kill himself so that they could be together, whether in the afterlife or whether as walkers or just, whatever he might think, that he's willing to do that. And Celia actually admires him for that and brings in one of those, the pieces of bread, so that Strand can kill himself and be with Thomas. And of course, Celia's plan is that she's going to take the bodies and put them in the cage, so that she can keep them and take care of him, because that's what she does. Well, when Thomas dies, instead of, killing himself, he ends up shooting Thomas in the head. And that's the very last thing that we see in the episode, which actually ends up affecting something else that was going on. And that was Chris. As we know, we saw with Chris having some problems in this episode, Madison ends up staying with Alicia because Alicia's very scared, upset with the way that Chris was talking to her. And they were in bed sleeping, and Chris comes into the room. And he's holding a knife, and he's staring at them. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. Well, the gunshot wakes them up, and they see Chris is in the room. They're like, "What are you doing? Get out of here." And Chris ends up leaving and just runs out of the house and runs away. And by the preview, it really seems that Chris is probably leaving. He's just going to run. He's going to get out of there. And the group might have to go find him, or I think probably just Travis would be the only one that would want to do that at this point. But at this point, he's left. And we don't know what he was going to do. I think that maybe in the next episode, we're going to find out a little bit more about what he was thinking. Was he really going to stab and kill them? Or was he just, toying with the idea? Was he thinking that maybe this is something he needed to do? I don't know. And I'm going to try to do a video this week exploring Chris a little more and seeing what might be going on with him and what's going to happen to him as time goes on. So I will be doing that video as well. So I'll explore that a little bit more. But that's what happened in the episode. I thought it was pretty good. And again, I think Fear the Walking Dead is really getting better as time goes on, and I'm really starting to admire the show. I really am enjoying it, and I think it's going to stand on its own for quite a bit. I really think so. So with that, I'm going to bring this video to a close. I want to thank all of you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. And if you have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, don't be afraid to suggest them. Have a very wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.